Well, I think, you know, I was not alive for the American Revolution. I was not alive for the Civil War. I wasn't even alive for World War I, believe it or not. But I did live through World War II. And for me, World War II is different than any war that came after it. We were all involved. The whole country was involved in World War II. Now, victory gardens are a piece of it. I've told several people here that my mother tried, and the only thing that grew in her garden was chard. Acres of chard, bushels of chard. I'm not too fond of chard, but we did try, and everybody tried. My grandmother had me waiting tables before I was even a teenager at British War Relief. We worked, and we collected grease from people. In fact, I quit the Girl Scouts because I got so tired of collecting grease. But we all cared. We cared. It's so different from wars now. We really thought we were right, and you know, I look back on it, I think we were right. You know, I think we did the right thing. And because Hitler was eating Europe and the Japanese had bombed us. So that was the background of this book. But also the book is about a girl in junior high. And what do people in junior high want? They want to be accepted, right? They want to be part of the gang. They want people to like them. And there's always seems to be a problem with that. So Rosemary, she had a couple of problems. Her dad joined the Navy, and because they didn't have his paycheck, they moved out of town to live with her grandfather. And her grandfather was a Quaker who didn't believe in war. Now, during World War II, if you didn't believe in the war, during Vietnam, many people didn't believe in the war. But during World War II, only a few Quakers didn't believe in the war, and they were very unpopular. So Rosemary had that problem. But the biggest problem she had was a group of really snotty girls that she'd known all her life who had a club, and they weren't letting her in it. And this was making her miserable. This is a private girls' school. I know that sounds really strange in California, but I wrote this book about Princeton, New Jersey, where Einstein lived at the time. In fact, I lived right across the street from Einstein. So there were a lot of private schools there. It was different than California. So Rosemary wants to get into the gang. Well, here's a rule for writing a book, especially for children. Start on the day that's different. And the day that was different was, this was the day Cat Goodman came to Miss Worth's school. What was different about Cat? She was from California. What was different about Cat? She limped because she'd had polio. What was really different about Cat to those girls who were kind of insular, Cat was Jewish. They hadn't had a Jewish girl in the school before, and they didn't react well. Here's another thing about World War II. It moved people more than World War I. People moved. My uncle went to California to work in the shipyard. People came east to work with the government. People moved here and there with the service, with jobs. Women went to work. It just was a different situation. And up until then, our country had been kind of static. You were born in somewhere, Ohio. You lived in somewhere, Ohio. You got married in somewhere, Ohio, etc., etc., etc. But now these people, I can remember up the street from me, there was a Chinese boy. I was like, wow, Chinese. He was really good at playing the piano. and there were refugees from the Philippines, Presbyterian refugees from other places. And we also had a girl from France. And I put something like that in the book. It was a boy from France. But, and we were very bad. The girl from France didn't use a deodorant because nobody in Europe did then. And she smelled like something else. And we used to put a marble in a can of, you know, BO cream and then ask Taya, did you find the marble? I don't think she was amused, but we learned, little by little, we learned to be a little more cosmopolitan, a little changed. And that was something that Einstein said about Princeton, that they were a group of pygmies walking around on stilts. He was interested in the university people, and he was interested in government, and he was interested in many things, but he was not interested in the social side of Princeton. My grandmother used to ask the Einsteins to Sunday night supper, where she had kind of a potluck thing, and his sister and his niece would come, but Einstein never came. And one of the great regrets of my life is because my grandfather was head of the gas rationing board, and because he was a very upright New Englander, we had the least gas of anybody in town. So I always had to walk to school, and Einstein walked the other way to the Institute of Advanced Study, and we passed each other on the sidewalk. So I was like in 5th grade, 6th grade, but I never talked to him. Why didn't I talk to him? You know, I could barely do long division, just barely. I am still perfectly awful at math. And I thought because he was a math genius, I'm not even sure Einstein was so good at long division. He was more like a physics genius. But I couldn't think of anything to say to him. I was just embarrassed. So I let this great opportunity pass me by. And I've been to elementary schools time and time again talking about my book, and people sort of say, Einstein, Einstein. And I think to myself, if I had known that that was the most important thing about my childhood, I would have. I thought it was important that my braids were kept coming out. I thought it was important that the boy in class that I liked never looked at me. I thought it was important that I had trouble passing math tests. It never occurred to me that passing Einstein was probably the most important thing I would ever do. So those are some of the facts that went into my book. World War II, how junior high school girls feel, and boys to some extent, when there's a group and you're left out. How people deal with people who are different. And those were pretty much my themes. And I also I borrowed something from my mother and father, who always worried if you were going to fit in with the socially prominent people. Whatever you did, they were like, well, do you think people will like this? What do you think people will say? And I loved my parents, but I didn't particularly love that about them. Now, did you want to ask questions, or anybody want to ask questions?
Can we hear a little bit of the book itself?
Do you want me to what?
Can we hear a little bit of the book itself?
You want me to read a little bit?
Yes, please.
Okay. Rosemary is talking, Rosemary is the heroine, and she is talking to a girl who used to be her best friend, who's now in this club that won't deal with her at all. And, just a second. What the girl tells her is that they will let Rosemary in the club if Rosemary makes friends with the new girl. Let's see. Back to. Okay. Lucy's mangled French got me giggling again. She whipped around and stuck her face in mine. What'd she like? Who, Cat? I thought her name was Enid. She wants to be called Cat. Quite buddy-buddy, you two. Lucy opened a small compact and peered at the mirror. My mother says they rented a huge house. She rubbed on pink lipstick. My dad says all Jews throw their money around. Don't you think having a chauffeur is très nouveau rich? I guess, I said, feeling uncomfortable. I twirled my curly hair to a thick rope. Lucy, my grandfather's cat just had kittens. Want to come see them? Lucy's sharp face relaxed. I'd love to, she said in her old voice. Then, as Mona slithered up, hissing softly, Lucy gave a fake laugh. Ha, ha, ha. Silly girl, I'm insanely busy. Besides, she frowned, my mother wouldn't let me come. She's mad at your grandfather for being against the war. Honestly, Lucy, I'm not buddy-buddy with Cat. No? Lucy's right eyebrow rose. You still want to join our club? Oh, yes. Yes, I do. Oh, yes, please. In Miss Worth's 8th grade, if you weren't in Lucy and Mona's club, you might as well be dead. Lucy's eyes twinkled. My chair, I've got a great initiation stunt for you. Don't gape, Rosemary. Ferme la bouche. It's pronounced bouche. A frown line appeared between Lucy's eyebrows. Damn it, Rosemary, do you want to join or not? I do, but I have to go. Standing up, my mother's here. Lucy grabbed my shoulder. Here's your assignment. Whatever it was, swim the Delaware. Snitch a Hershey bar from Woolworth's. Talk back to Miss Sowerby. I'd do it. Make friends with Enid Goodman, Lucy said. I gasped. I can't. She doesn't like me. Lucy's smile showed the chipped tooth she got playing kick the can in 4th grade. Come on, Rosemary. I want you in the club. I've missed you. The words felt like warm butterscotch sliding over my sore heart. Okay, but if you don't like Jews, then why? Mom honked and yelled out the window, Rosemary, please! Just do it, Lucy said, and we'll vote you in. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
That was awesome.